So we're joined by Bryan Fischer. He is the American Family Association's Director of Issues Analysis and the host of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Thanks for joining us on short notice, Bryan.
You bet, David. Glad to do it.
So we in talking to you via email, setting up the interview, we mentioned how we wanted to talk about how the AFA has been labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yes.
Now, when I first heard that, I said, well, first thing is let's figure out how do you get on that list. So we actually talked to Mark Potok from the SPLC. And, we talked to him about how the groups get on there, so on and so forth. So we have that piece we heard his side. So what I would love to hear is Tony Perkins has been very vocal saying the FRC, he doesn't think belongs on that list. So I would love to hear your side of how do you react?
Well, the interesting thing is, David, if you take their criterion for putting a pro-family group on this list is that they peddle falsehoods about homosexuality. If that is their standard, then the Southern Poverty Law Center belongs on its own list because they have on their website what they call 10 myths about homosexuality, but every single one of them is true. So the reality is it's the Southern Poverty Law Center that's out there peddling falsehoods about homosexual behavior, so they ought to be on their own list.
So the myths that you mentioned, are you okay going through a couple of them? I just figured I'll pick a couple at random and we'll just see. So
Absolutely.
Number one, for example, homosexuals molest children at far higher rates than heterosexuals. You say that is actually true.
This is absolutely true, and this is according to the Journal of Sex Research, which is not the research arm of the American Family Association. It's not a pro-family, not a conservative organization. The Journal of Sex Research indicates that homosexual pedophiles are responsible for 33%, roughly, of all child sex offenses.
So to be clear,
we're the ones that are telling the truth about the link between homosexuality and pedophilia. Southern Poverty Law Center is peddling falsehoods. They belong on their own list.
So this is, just to be clear, you're referring to the 1989 Journal of Sex Research article by Kurt Frund. Is that right?
I believe that's the one, yes. I don't have that information right in front of me.
So here's the thing. I looked this up because I try to do as much due diligence as possible, and I looked this up. And what it seems to say is that this is actually the opposite of what Kurt Frund's study indicated. So in other words, you're saying 33%, assuming every case of men molesting boys is committed by a homosexual. My opinion, and you tell me where I'm wrong, is that pedophilia is not an issue of gay or straight. It is somebody who is attracted to youth, is it not?
No, you can be attracted to youth of the same sex or youth of the opposite sex. If you are attracted to youth of the same sex, that is homosexual attraction.
Not according to those who study this in mental health. They say that it is an issue of the prepubescent nature of someone, and it has nothing to do with gay or straight.
Well, that's just simply ridiculous, David. I mean, that's simply ridiculous.
How do you figure?
Homosexuality, by definition, is being attracted to somebody of the same sex.
Yes, but that is once you are once you are not prepubescent, though. It doesn't make sense to me to think that it is if you're attracted to someone who is prepubescent as an adult, that seems to be a sickness that is not an issue of being gay or straight. I don't know.
Well, sure. I mean, if an adult male is attracted to a young girl, a member of the opposite sex, that's a sickness. If an adult male is attracted to a member of the same sex, that too is a mental disorder. It's a sickness. But it is an attraction to somebody of the same sex. I mean, it's ridiculous to try to say that that's not what's going on here. I mean, the plain obvious facts are here is an adult who is attracted to somebody of the same sex. That, by definition, is homosexuality.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. Let's look at I don't know, maybe myth number 4. Homosexuals don't live as long. You say that is true.
Absolutely, and this is according, once again, to a secular source, the International Journal of Epidemiology. They did a longitudinal study of the active homosexual community in Vancouver, British Columbia. They came to the conclusion that active participation in the homosexual lifestyle will deprive a male of anywhere between 8 and 20 years of his life expectancy. And then just last year, the Canadian Rainbow Health Coalition, this is a homosexual activist group in Canada, they produced a list of health issues affecting queer Canadians, that's their term, not mine, queer Canadians, and the first thing they mention is lower life expectancy. So even homosexual activist groups, David, are admitting, this is just last year, that participation in the homosexual lifestyle will reduce your longevity.
Now, Bryan, you know that a lot of the people whose studies you're quoting are personally angry with you for what they are saying is misrepresenting their data, right? I mean, Stephanie Strathdy, who's associate... Hold on a second, Bryan, though. Let me just get the question out. Stephanie Strathdy, who's Associate Dean of Global Health Sciences at UC San Diego, and she actually authored one of the reports that you state, here's a quote: "I am aghast that the misrepresentation of these data continues." And her argument is, and this is her argument, is that new studies actually point out that the significant advances in HIV and AIDS treatment have significantly improved the life expectancies of those who are infected, and that the landscape has changed significantly.
Well, that's fine. Significantly improved does not mean it's the same or better. I mean, she's admitting that there is an impact on longevity. Maybe that gap is shrinking, but she's even admitting that it's still there.
You claim that gay people can choose to leave homosexuality, and you base that on the fact that some people claim to have left. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, I've met them. When I pastored, I had them speak in my church.
Okay. So
that proves that it's possible.
Can you understand, though, how it would be possible for someone to claim they have left while that is not really the reality? Can you imagine that type of circumstance? Can you understand why people might have that motivation to do that based on either being ostracized in their communities or for a number of other reasons? So just because you have met someone who claims to have left, does that mean that people can really stop being homosexual?
Well, sure. I mean, I've met people that have. I mean, there's living proof. I mean, it's right there in front of your very eyes. Is that to say that everybody that tries to leave the lifestyle is successful? Of course not. But it is obviously possible to change, reorient yourself sexually. People are doing it every day.
So from this, I gather that logically you must believe that people choose to either be gay or be straight at some point, right? I mean, it's a choice.
Sexual behavior is a choice. Now, I may not be able to do anything about the kind of sexual temptations that I experience, but choosing to yield to those sexual temptations, that is always a choice. I mean, you can ask Tiger Woods what happens when you yield to every sexual temptation that comes your way.
So hold on a second. So when you said that people can stop being gay, you're actually saying they can just stop committing sexual acts with people of the same sex. They can't actually stop being gay, right?
Well, I'm saying that every sexual act is a matter of choice.
Okay, but do you see where I'm getting at here? Because when you talk about you've met people that used to be gay, you're not actually indicating really that they stopped being gay. They are just no longer having sex with others of the same gender, right? They're two very different things.
Well, no, the people that I've talked to, again, and this is based on my own personal experience and from studies I've read from organizations that help people leave the lifestyle, their actual orientation does change. They develop a sexual attraction toward members of the opposite sex. Some of the men that I had speak in my church were now happily married and the father of children.
But so I'm getting so confused here, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding it. You're claiming that people can choose the sexual acts they engage in, but they cannot choose who they are attracted to. That is something you're born with. But again, you just said the people you know have changed who they are attracted to. I'm
not saying people are born that way. I'm just
now you're not saying it.
No, I'm just drawing a distinction between sexual temptation and sexual behavior, because I may not be able to control the kind of sexual temptations that I experience, but I can decide which of those impulses I yield to.
Maybe I'm just not going to understand it, because I'm hearing you saying people can't control the sexual temptations that they have. They can control their actions, but the people you know that are now happily straight were able to control the temptations. They're no longer tempted to be gay. Am I hearing something wrong?
No, transformation is possible, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously happened. I mean, it can happen. You know, even Robert Spitzer, he was the psychologist that engineered the politically motivated declassification of homosexuality as a mental disorder in 1973. He admitted several years ago he did an extensive study of groups that work with people trying to change their sexual orientation, and he came to the conclusion that it is possible. This is Robert Spitzer, Columbia University. Doesn't work for FRC, doesn't work for AFA, probably shares most of the goals of the homosexual agenda, yet he himself has said, after looking at this issue himself, that change is possible.
Yeah, but you know what? He actually, after saying that, he actually said, you know, it's possible if you're highly motivated to switch sexual activity, but cases of actual conversion from gay to straight were, this is his quote, probably extremely rare. And he also has recorded an online appeal asking anti-gay organizations like yours to stop misrepresenting his research. This is Spitzer specifically. Another instance. But hold on, Bryan. You have a track record of getting people who do research on these issues saying, I need Bryan Fischer to stop misrepresenting my research.
No, I'm not butchering their research. I'm quoting them verbatim, David. How can you distort somebody or misrepresent somebody when you are quoting them verbatim using their own words? You're not changing their words. You're not twisting their words. You are quoting them. That's not misrepresentation. That's quotation.
You know, we're going to have a certain percentage of people that will claim to do anything, but you're making it seem like it's just a run-of-the-mill thing. You know people that are ex-gay, now they're happily straight. But Spitzer is saying, my research did not indicate that that is common. My research does not indicate that that is reasonable. It is probably extremely rare.
But see, David, realize he is admitting that it's possible. When he says it's rare, he is agreeing with me that change is possible.